But I have something that I want to share with you before we go immediately into this experience. And as I welcome you today, and I acknowledge that we heard the call and we did answer, that each and every one of us, we are on a journey. And as I direct this also to our viewing audience, you tuned in today because of a divine appointment. That nothing happens by chance, does it? We are all drawn together through that energy. Like attracts like. Water seeks its own level. Birds of a feather flock together. So when we look at energy, and if there is a vibrational match, we grow and we unfold. And it's interesting on our journey that there are times that we outgrow things and we need to move on. And not everyone goes with us, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to catch up. So I'm going to share with you the declaration of interdependence. This is by Melanie Bacon. She said, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all life is interconnected and endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights and responsibilities. That among these are presence, compassion, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights and responsibilities, we open our minds and hearts to the needs of others and our own true needs. We hear the sound of the living universe in our ears, and we add our voices to that song. I love that. We live every moment with awareness of the purity and power of existence. And for the support of this declaration, we pledge to each other our love and our breath. For the freedom of the one is the freedom of the all, and the pain of the one is the pain of the all. The breath of the one is the breath of the all, and the breath of the all is the breath of God. This, our declaration of interdependence, because we are certainly, at a very deep level, we are so interconnected, and that it really does take a village. And if we look at our lives, and when I'm standing in the line at the grocery store and I see, all these people going about their daily round, and the cashiers and the energy and the interconnection of going to the farmer's market and thinking about, that this was once a seed planted by someone who cared deeply and energetically. So today, as we look at our legacy of freedom, it goes way back. Jesus said, "Know the truth, and the truth shall set ye free." Now, know the truth, that you are created in the image and likeness of God with certain inalienable rights, that we are all equal in the sight of God. Whatever we conceive that God to be, whatever name we put on our higher power, it doesn't matter. RJ and I went to Istanbul and we heard the call to prayer 5 times a day. And people would stop what they were doing, and they would sit in prayer as this energy went out into the universe. We went to Croatia. I spoke at Zagreb University, and it was a Catholic university, and there was a feeling of energy there, of people that were practicing their faith. We went on to London, to the School of Oriental Studies in London, at Oriental and African Studies. And we could feel the ecumenicity. We could feel the one and the all and the one. For the breath of the one is the breath of the all, and the breath of the all is the breath of God. Whatever we conceive our God to be, and I love that. I love the energy of oneness, that we all came in knowing this, that we were all one energetically. And as we look at our legacy of freedom, of knowing the truth, and the truth shall set us free, that we are created in the image and likeness of God, that we are told that what? It is good. And what? Very good. It's not just good. It is very good. That's why I love the African philosophy and the Igbo tribal language, Amade, the God in me, the energy of good that is, salutes that within you. And we feel it when we connect, when we embrace, and we move beyond all of these stereotypes that the society puts on us. We move past that, and we come to that place of knowingness with our own heart and soul. There was a woman who was very, she was bereft. And her mother was coming to take her to stay with her because she was so bereft that she really wished that she wasn't on the planet anymore. And she was a fairly young woman. She was going through a divorce. She was experiencing lupus. And she'd had several surgery on her knees. And nothing was going right for this woman. And her mother ran in to get something for her in the house. And she was sitting in the car. And when her mother came out to pull the car out in the driveway, she looked up on the roof, and there was this amazing white bird. She said, look at that white bird on the roof. I've never seen anything like it in my life. My gosh, it looks like a stork. She goes, it's a heron. And the bird spread its wings and began to circle and flew up, 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 so high. And then the ancient ones, our allies, our animal allies, our animal totems. The heron represents great balance and the willingness to go into the deep water. The willingness to stand fast in that balance. The ancient ones said, don't look to the right, don't look to the left. Stand in your power circle. Do not bleed energy in the outer. Stand in your power circle. So when we have that freedom to know this day in whom we live and move and have our being, whatever name we put on it, that our legacy of freedom goes way back. Know the truth, and the truth shall set ye free. Know the truth of who and what you are. And when we really get that, something is shifted inside of us, and we are not the same ever again. It's interesting how that energy works as we evolve past the way that it ever was. And you want to know if you've grown? When you don't have the same energy charge, when stuff comes up and you're not giving your power away to it, you're just looking at it, that's interesting. And when you know that you don't need to react to the outer stuff anymore, that you have become more conscious. And the more conscious that we are, the greater our freedom is. Because the twin, remember, of freedom is responsibility. When I am accountable to my life, then I can do something about it rather than looking outside myself and being at the effect of life. And this happened and that happened and here I am. Suddenly we're sitting in a car and a great white heron flies overhead and says, be still and know who you are and the balance of who you are and the willingness to tread out into deeper waters and to discover those energies inside yourself. And in our legacy of freedom, I love looking at children. And the children come in knowing who they are. They're so fresh from God, aren't they? And I love the story. He's about a little 9-year-old, and he went to one of those old-fashioned soda fountains. Some of us know about old-fashioned soda fountains. And he sat up at the counter on his little stool, and the waitress came, and she was sort of chewing gum, and she had her little order book, and she said, yes. And he said, how much is a chocolate sundae? He goes, 50 cents. Believe it or not, in those days, when I was growing up, they were 50 cents. And he goes, oh, and he looked and he counted his change. And she's getting a little impatient, Other customers are coming in. He goes, well, how much is just a plain ice cream without the chocolate and the whipped cream? And she goes, 35 cents. Now she said it, she's a little angry. So he said, I'll just have the plain ice cream, please. So she's off, she's waiting on other people. And she sees him at the cashier and he pays his bill. She went over to clean up after him. And then her throat caught. There was a 15-cent tip on the napkin. So he didn't have his chocolate sundae, so he could give her a 15-cent tip. And unless we become as a little child, we will not enter into the kingdom of heaven, that higher consciousness that looks up and sees the great white bird that spreads its wings in the energy of knowing all is well. That unless we have that trust, and we're not talking about being gullible, we're talking about the trust of the child, that we all came in. Our legacy of freedom includes that knowingness, that we are all one. What serves the one serves the all. What serves the all serves the one. And that when we open our hearts to that level of compassion and that energy, that I'm going to save something out for you. And maybe I won't have exactly what I wanted on that particular day, but I will save something out for you. That the same opening we give through is the same opening that we receive through. And that no one is lower or higher in this kingdom of God. We are all equal. Some of us are more blessed and fortunate because there is a consciousness within us that knows, that it knows, that it knows, and not even the gates of hell shall prevail against it. I love the story about the professor that went out on the sailboat. Any sailors here? And so he was looking at the sailor and he said, do you know biology and cartography and the oceanography? And the sailor said, no, I don't. He goes, oh, well, you're just going to die illiterate. And it was amazing because at that moment, the boat began to sink. And so the old sailor said, do you know escapology and sharkology? Because you got a lot of mouthology on you. So it's about putting the works with the faith, because faith without works is dead. That it's good to have a little street sense about us. And the knowingness, the ways of the world, we are in the world and of a higher spiritual reality. It's good to know and navigate through this thing called life in the three-dimensional world, even though we know there is a greater dimension that allows us to spring forth in a way that we have never sprang forth before. And that realization that I and my Father, Mother, God are one. And isn't it wonderful that everyone that we meet is some part of ourselves? And that if the Course in Miracles says, and the encounter is holy, because we are. And if the encounter is unholy, and we're seeing that, it's up to us to see through that appearance, that condition, and that effect to the truth of the being, that God particle, that speck of the energy of the divine. That doesn't mean that they're going to be in our personal energy field. It just means we got it. We're all one. And we may not vibrate at the same frequency. That's all right too. But to know that we all can learn from each other, that we can learn something every day, that there is no higher or lower. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, there is no large or small in the one mind that knows all. And as we open the space to acknowledge that God energy is flowing through us. When I was in Zagreb, there was in this wonderful square a statue of Nikola Tesla, who, he was the inventor of the wireless and all of the amazing things that he did for our society that caught on like 20 years later. He said he created the wireless, and 19 years later, they were using it because they were making it more complicated, and it went through all their own tests to discover that, yes, it was indeed workable. And that he said, I was before my time. Moses could have come down from the mount with the flashlight. It was in the energy field, right? And someone said, and he didn't need to wander for 40 years if he'd only asked for directions. Well, that's a whole other story, isn't it? It takes what it takes. Some of us do wander 40 years in the wilderness of unconsciousness, of addiction, of looking outside of ourselves until that moment when we get it. And I love when the founder of Alcoholics Anonymous, Bill W., said he was lying in his room, he'd gone everywhere. He went absolutely to every psychiatrist, every psychologist, every expert to heal himself. He went even to Austria to Carl Jung, and Carl Jung said, there's nothing I can do for you. You need a spiritual experience. A spiritual experience. Well, how do we get that? So he said, I just fell asleep one night, and at 3 in the morning, a white light came in. The brightest light I had ever seen. And it was such a light and such an energy, I knew it was God. And I got up from that bed healed and went out into the world to share the message of Alcoholics Anonymous. And out of Alcoholics Anonymous came, so many 12-step programs. I was an Alateen. I mean, it's amazing when we look at Al-Anon and all the things to heal ourselves of our addictions, that we don't need to look outside of ourselves, and we don't need to fill the hole in the soul with something in the outer, that we have it within us, and the moment that we realize that we have it within us and we have a choice, I believe, is the moment of enlightenment. When there was the signing of the Declaration of Independence, and there was great upheaval and great upset, and they didn't know if they signed it, they were signing literally their death warrant. And so finally a man appeared in the room and gave them all the reasons of why they should sign this Declaration of Independence and the destiny that it would fulfill for century upon century upon century. He talked about that which was given unto them and their own destiny, that they were called upon at this time and this place to sign this document that was going to free the multitudes and be a society that allowed the freedom of speech, the freedom of equality. We've come a long way since that time. And when every last person signed the Declaration of Independence, the legend goes, they looked up, and that man was not in that room, and the doors were locked. And it's a legend that lives on because each and every one of us has that being of light, whether it appears as the heron, the angel, the man, the woman, the energy of the little child, that's going to hold something out for us, because unless we become as a little child, we will not really experience the freedom, the resiliency, and the energy to be who we are. What blesses one, blesses all. The breath in the one is the breath in the all, and the breath in the all is the breath of God. So I say to each and every one of us that let's let go and let God do what God does best by means of each and every one of us who heard the call and can what? Go higher. Where? Yet. Where are we going? We are going higher. We are letting go and letting God do what God does best by means of each and every one of us, because we are going higher. And so it is. God bless you.